So, a bit of seasonal nonsense. We're going to look at making a Christmas tree. I guess the point is less about making a Christmas tree and more about looking at some different techniques to get sort of textures and stuff on the tree. I'm not going to make all the elements in this demo. For example, the text I've shown how to do in the last couple of videos. The star lens flare thing is from Learn Now Effects Lens Master Flare Pack. I just put them in for a bit of something extra. Okay, let's go. Okay, once more with feeling. I think this is the fourth time I've started this now. If it doesn't work, I'm going to give up. Okay, so as usual, into Fusion. So get your Fusion comp onto your timeline. I'm going to make it 10 seconds. The length is kind of up to you, really. And go into Fusion. So I'm going to approach this in a bit of a random way. I'm going to build the top of the tree first, put the lights on it, and then we will do everything else. It's just the easiest way I've found to get the lights to sit properly. So, tree. The tree is basically a shape 3D cone. So come to your hotbar, grab your shape 3D, bring it in. We can put the shape 3D in our viewer. We only need one for the time being, and we can change the shape to a cone, which gives us our basic tree shape. With the shape 3D, I am going to up the base subdivision so it stays nice and round, and I'm going to cap the bottom of our cone. And other than that, I'm not going to do anything to it. Next, we're going to need a duplicate node to get the layers. So shift spacebar and type duplicate, and you're looking for duplicate 3D. And we're going to have 5 copies. We're going to offset on Y by 0.655, and we're going to reduce the size to 0.825. So each cone gets smaller as it goes up, just giving you the sort of tree shape. What we can also do, if you come to the top of your viewer and click on this little circle, it will turn sort of temporary lighting on so you can get some idea of the shape. Next thing we need to do is make it look like a tree. To make it look like a Christmas tree, we're going to use a material that we're going to create ourselves. So to create your material, bring in a fast noise and pop that in your viewer. With your fast noise, you're going to up the contrast a bit, down the brightness a bit, and you're going to unlock X and Y. Your X scale is going to be 100, and your Y scale is going to be about 4, and that just gives this sort of pattern. Next, we're going to change the color. So come into your color tab, you're going to put the alpha of color 1 up to 1, and we're going to change color 1 so that it's a kind of very dark brown, almost black. And we're going to change color 2 to be the green. Play with these, get the colors that you like. And so we have our basic texture, but we're going to make it a bit nicer by selecting our fast noise, click shift spacebar and type cook to get the cook torrents node. This is a shader node, and it will create the material. At the moment, our material is quite flat, so we want a bit of texture on it. And to get the texture, we're going to click away, shift spacebar and type create to get create bump map. And then we're going to shift space bar and type bump to get bump map. And we are going to pipe a second output from our fast noise into the create bump map image input. So if you select your create bump map node first, put it into the viewer, you get this sort of purple with very faint lines on it from our pattern. So what we need to do is come to the height scale and just crank it up. Next, select your bump map tool and put that into the viewer. You can just faintly see the lines. So what we need to do is come to source image type and change it from height map to bump map. And now you can get the texture. You can soften that down a bit by coming back to the create bump map and maybe drop in height a bit. If you now right click on the output from the bump map node, go up to the cook tolerance node and let go, you'll get this drop down menu and you're looking for bump map material. And now if we view our cook tolerance, it's got a bit of texture to it. And then we can pipe all this into our shape 3D. Again, if you right click off the cook tolerance output, hold it over your shape 3D, you get the material input. And now if we view our duplicate node, we have something that looks vaguely like a tree. So next we are going to sort out the lights. So the lights are basically a particle system that sit on the shape of the tree. So come to your hotbar again. In the middle here you've got P emitter, and then you have P render, and join them together. In the P emitter node, select the P emitter node, come to the inspector, go to region and change sphere to mesh. Now what we can do is take an output from our duplicate 3D node and pipe it into our P emitter mesh input. And if we view our P render and come along a bit, you see you've got a vague outline of your tree in particles. So we'll sort those out next. So go to P emitter, come to style, change it from point to blob, and now we've got bigger particles. Come to color controls, color variance, and in each of these first three you're going to put -0.5 in the low and 0.5 in the high. You can leave the alpha variance alone, come down to the bottom and uncheck where it says lock color variance, and now you've got lots of different colored particles. So next we need to bring our particles onto our tree. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in a merge 3D node. We're going to pipe the output, the second output from the duplicate into the merge, and we're going to pipe the output of our P render into our merge, and then we can view the two together. Now the first thing you notice is that you don't see all those particles, and the reason for that is that they're kind of inside the tree. So what we need to do is add a transform 3D. So click away from all your nodes, shift space bar, transform, and you want transform 3D. Now if you click and hold this and then press the shift key and drag it over the line until it changes color and let go, that's now connected into our flow. If you come to your transform and come to scale and just drop it down ever so slightly, you'll see your lights start to appear on your tree. So that puts the lights on our tree. Now we don't actually want them to go into this merge node because we're going to later on have a separate render path for our particles so that we can apply a glow effect to them without adding a glow to the tree. But for now we'll leave it as it is. Okay, now we've got the particles roughly where they should be. We're going to build the rest of the tree. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this transform over, and I'm going to add another merge, another 3D merge here. So come to your hotbar, drag, and again drop it so that it's over the line and it changes color, and just let go. Now we can add stuff to our tree via this merge node. So the next thing I'm going to add is a trunk. So come to your hotbar, grab a shape 3D, and pipe it into our merge node. So this is the first merge node before the transform. Now if we view this merge node, I'm going to select our new shape. I'm going to change it from plane to cylinder. So what I'm going to do to stop confusion is I'm going to start renaming some of these nodes. So our cylinder node, make sure it's selected, press F2 and type trunk. Our tree node, our tree shape, select F2, and just call it tree. Now our trunk we need to adjust, so we're going to come into the inspector, up the base subdivisions, we're going to drop the radius right down, and we're going to drop the height down to 1. Now we're going to come to the transform tab, and we're going to move it down along the x-axis so you can see the trunk coming out the bottom. And what you can do is tip your view so you can see what's happening. To rotate around your view like this, you press and hold the Option or Alt key and hold your middle mouse button. If you want to zoom in and out, press and hold the Control key and zoom your middle mouse button. If you want to just move around the scene, press the middle mouse button on its own and you can pan around. So let's bring this down so we've got plenty spare at the bottom. So about there should do. It's not critical. You can also maybe make it a bit thinner, so come back to your controls and just adjust it. Now the trunk we want to texture like we did the tree, and we can just copy the material we've already made. So select your 4 nodes, Control C to copy, click away, Control V to paste. And now we can connect this material into our tree. Now at the minute it's green, so we need to come back to our fast noise, go to color, and where you've got the green, just change it to a brown, like so. Final part of our actual tree is going to be the pot that the tree sits in. So we can move down a bit. To make the pot, bring in another shape 3D. This one we will rename to pot. We're going to make it a cone. And we're going to connect it into our tree merge node. Now we're going to up the base subdivisions, and we are going to drop it down a bit because we're going to want it kind of down here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the controls, and you've got radius, which is the base here, and top radius, which is the point, which is somewhere up in the tree at the minute. I'm going to make the top radius wider than the base radius to make the pot shape. And this is just going to be a bit of trial and error to get it kind of where you want it. So you can drop the height down. And we can also come to our transform and lower it a bit more so that the tree's actually sat in the pot rather than the pot in the tree, as it were. And again, just trial and error to get the shape that you kind of want. Again, we're going to come to the cap, and we're going to cap the bottom. Now to give our pot a little bit of colour, I'm going to bring in 2 background nodes. I'm going to merge them over each other. So the bottom background, I'm going to make half red. Top, I'm going to make half green. And now if we view them, you'll just see the green. But what I'm going to do is bring a rectangle and pipe that into the green background. And then we can set our rectangle to 1 wide, bit narrow, move it up a bit. And then if we pipe this into the material of our pot, we end up with this. The last thing I'm going to do is just put something into the pot so that the tree's sat in it. So again, shape 3D, pipe it in, and we're going to make this one into a cylinder. We're going to up the space subdivisions, we're going to drop the height down to almost nothing. 0.01 is fine. We're going to cap the top this time, and now we're going to drop this into the pot. So like somewhere around there. What I want to do is try and get it so that it's level with the green or just above the green, like so. We can now come to the radius and just drop the radius so that there's nothing sticking out the side of the pot, like so. Go to materials and just make it a dark brown colour so it looks like soil or dirt or whatever, somewhere around there. So now we have our tree and lights, like so. What we can do is start messing with the lights to get them doing what we want. That number seems to be working quite well. You'd go to your P emitter, go to controls. I had the number lower than this, but 10 seems to be working okay. Go to the style tab, come down to fade control, and you want 0.1 on the in and 0.9 on the out. That just softens the lights turning on and off. They're not sort of popping quite as harshly. Again, you can come into the controls and you can change the number of lights. You can vary as you wish. What you can also do if you come to P-render is you can go to frame 0, and if you look in the inspector, you've got pre-generated frames. If you make that about 80, your tree will start off with lights on it. Okay, so far so good. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect our particles from this merge node, and we're going to set the particles up with their own merge node, because what's going to happen eventually is that we will have a render 3D node attached here which will render the tree, and then another render 3D that will render just the particles. That will allow us to add a glow or something to the particles without affecting the tree. So let's start with the tree first. So merge 3D for your tree and add a render 3D node. Go to this render 3D and turn on lighting and shadows. And we will now go back to 2 viewers. And at the minute you can't see anything because there's no lights. So come to our tree merged node, which is this one here. We're going to add a camera. And we're going to add a spotlight. Like so. So the first thing to sort out is the camera. At the minute the camera's sat in the middle of the tree, which is no use to anybody. You can't see anything. So select your camera come to transform, hit use target. This just keeps the camera looking at this central point of your tree, and then you can pull back on the Z until you can see your tree like so. Next, we're going to do the same with the spotlight. So select the spotlight, come to transform, hit use target, and pull back on the Z. And now you see our tree starts to get lit up. And you need to sort of just use the various wheels to get the look that you want. So I've basically brought the light out, I've lifted it up and I've moved it over to the side so that it's kind of lighting this area more. You can light this as you wish. You can add more lights. It depends what you do with it. If you're going to have the camera rotating around it, then you may well need some lighting at the back. I think what I did was I just stuck some ambient light in. So click away from everything, shift spacebar and type ambient, and you get ambient light. You can drop that into your merge node. Now, if we look at the back now, we can take the ambient light and we can increase it a bit, just so that we're starting to get some detail at the back, like so. Now, I said earlier that I was going to have a separate render for the particles. So select your particles or your particle merge, should I say, and hit the render 3D button to add a render in for your particles. At the minute, they're just a mass in the middle of the screen. What you need to do is make them share the same view as your tree. So to do that, you just take a second output from your camera and drop it onto the particles merge node, and now you get this. Now the difficulty we've got at the minute, I'm just going to take all these and move them over a bit. The difficulty we've got at the minute is that when you do this, you see all the lights. So that's all the lights all around the tree. And what we need to do is set it up so that we just see the lights that are facing us. And to do that, we effectively need to mask this merge so that the particles that are in front are the ones that are visible. So in this empty space, just click, so you've got no node selected, press shift spacebar and type over to get the override node. Now what we can do with the override node is this will change settings that are already set in the previous node, if you like. So I'm going to take an output from the transform, which is our slightly reduced tree. I'm going to select the override and I'm going to come to where it says matte and check do matte and is matte. Now if we pipe this into the merge for the particles, all the particles that are hidden by the tree are now hidden. So when we merge these two together and view that, you get the lights looking appropriate. So we've got our tree, we've got our lights. I don't know if that's too many lights or not. It's your choice. You can sort of mess around with your emitter. What I am going to do is I'm going to shorten the lifespan of the lights so that they flicker a bit more. So I'm going to drop that down to 25 frames. So now we get this where the lights are coming on and off a lot quicker. And this is pretty much your tree. The only other thing I did was, if you just make a bit of room here, still on your particle path, so this bottom path, after the render, I added a star glow. Star glow is a node that's available through Reactor. If you don't have star glow, just use an ordinary glow. In fact, I'll just go with an ordinary glow for the purpose of demonstrating. So what we can do now is fiddle with the glow settings, and we can make our lights pop a bit more, like so. Again, you can mess around with this to get it to look how you want. And that's your basic Christmas tree. Add a background, merge it onto the background. We can then view it. At the minute it's black, so you can make your background whatever color you want. Yeah, go with maybe a blue, bit dark, bring it up. I don't know, brightness contrast with an ellipse mask. Make your mask sort of ovalish. This is only affecting the background, it won't affect the tree. You can then make it a bit brighter. We can soften the edge on our mask, like so, just to make a bit of a pretty background. You can then put text or whatever over the front of that. So if you then come into the edit tab and just let that cache, I keep being told cache, it doesn't cache, it caches. Potato, patata, who knows. And then you've got a twinkly Christmas tree. Obviously you can animate the camera, you can change the view, whatever, but that's the basic Christmas tree. Just a bit of nonsense for the time of year, but it also looks at sort of materials and how to get particles onto shapes and all that kind of malarkey. Have a wonderful Christmas, everybody, and I will catch you in the new year. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And I will catch you on the next one. Cheers!